I pledge allegiance to the flag join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Let's see here. We're going to start off with citizen concerns, round one. For those watching on YouTube, the room is packed of citizens really concerned, but not enough to talk about it. We got item 2, approval of the agenda. I'll move that. Second. Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Items 3 through 6 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of the April 19th, 2022 meeting. Item 4 is approval of claims. Item 5 from Commissioner of Elections A is receive the appointment of Sherry Welty to fill a vacant city council position in the city of Danbury. And B is receive the appointment of Blanca Martinez to fill the Western Iowa Tech District 3 vacancy. Item 6 from Human Resources, approval memorandum of personal transactions. Anything to be said on the consent agenda?
Move approval.
I'll second. Motion by DeWitt, second by Raddick. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item 7, secondary roads, not marked NARA. A is accept the front wheel assist tractor quotes and return them to the county engineer for award recommendation.
Colin Ryan here for secondary roads. The first bid here.
You want one, Josh, or do I give it over here? Okay.
First bid here is from Titan Machinery. They quoted a Farmall 110U Case IH. The total price as specified was $94,750 with a trade-in value of $11,650 for a net purchase price of $83,100. This next bid is from S&S Equipment from Lawton. Looks like they quoted a McCormick X635. It's a 110 horsepower. The total price is $72,950. Trade-in value of $9,000 for a total purchase price of $63,950. Looks like they quoted 2 different models. They also quoted one for 126 horsepower. It's an X655. The total price on that one is $75,850. Trade-in value of $9,000 for a net of $66,850. is from Agrivision. It looks like they did 2 bids as well in 2 separate envelopes. They quoted, this first quote is for a John Deere 6130R. Their quoted selling price was $139,247.75. Their trade-in value is $7,500 for a net of $131,747.75. The second bid is for a John Deere 6110M cab tractor. The total selling price for it is $127,955.47. The trade-in value is again $7,500 for a net of $120,455.47. Those are all our bids for this. This is for a mowing tractor. Runs kind of the ditch edge. We have 2 of them running at any given point in the year. They kind of make their way throughout the county, various locations. As Mark requests, would like to, after being received.
Second. Motion by DeWitt, second by Raddick. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to 7B, accept the county engineer's recommendation for the purchase of 2 motor graders and award the quotes to Murphy Tractor.
These 2 motor graders will go to the Mobile and Hornick districts. Looks like the John Deere's came in just a bit lower than the 2 cap models quoted, and Mark would recommend.
I'll move the engineer's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Item C is award the quote from Murphy Tractor for new John Deere 644P front end loader for $265 and $265,050. Did I get you 1 or 2?
I think that was 2.
I'll just go ahead and move the recommendation again.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 8 from the Assistant County Attorney. A is approve the resolutions authorizing Chairman Raddick to sign the deeds for the sale of the county farm to Morningside University and South Woodbury LLC. I'll go ahead and move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, passes 5-0. 8B is authorize Chairman Raddick to sign termination of lease purchase agreement with Dubuque Bank and Trust Company dated October 25th, 2017, and release a purchase option contained therein. I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item 9 from Board of Supervisors. Approve the policy that the Board of Supervisors may extend health insurance coverage with the policy points and procedures as described here concerning certain provisions. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So this is an opportunity for us to, again, lead, and credit goes to Supervisor DeWitt for bringing this forward last week. in terms of employees who engage in often dangerous work, which could include jailers, courthouse security deputies, juvenile detention, first responders, or a variety of other offices. So the following proposal extends this to those who are catastrophically and physically injured in the line of duty, and says that the board may extend health insurance coverage at the current level of coverage. So it's important to know that this policy would be if an individual is hurt in the line of duty and is on single coverage, that single coverage would remain. If the individual is on family coverage would remain. This would be something that I think that protects us in terms of it would be until the employee secures other health coverage through virtue of other employment or election of spousal coverage, paid for coverage by a legal settlement by reaching the age of 65 or SSI Medicaid. So in other words, we are acting as the bridge that is there, maybe toward other employment, maybe into perpetuity. Some of the other, I won't read all this, but some of the important other things I did put in that Woodbury County would pay the premium that would have otherwise been paid by the employee. I know I talked about this a little bit, but I think it's consistent with what we did with those who fall in the line of duty. And because it's catastrophic and because this bar is high, I don't think it's going to have a financial impact. It's probably rarely to be used. And so with that, there's some other provisions in here, like the employee must file a written statement detailing the circumstances, the timely filing of workman's comp that was in discussions with Melissa, our HR director, any witness statements, and be certified by our accompanying physician report. And so with that, the resolution states about all of those points, and I would open it up to discussion.
So one thing that was brought up to my attention was, maybe I think most employees would probably support the idea, but there is the threat that if something ever did happen, it would essentially cause insurance rates to go up to all the employees that are still working, because we're self-funded essentially, right? So if we did have to pay out a large amount or whatever it would be, because the bills are going to be higher for somebody that is most likely disabled, it would fall on the people that are still working and paying, because it's its own insurance fund. But I think that knowing that, I don't know, I only have like 4 employees here or 5, 6, sorry. I think most people would probably still support it, because I think it's essentially an added benefit and a peace of mind if somebody were to come in here and cause harm or end up with some kind of disability from their job. So, like you said, the chances of something happening are probably pretty small, but if something did happen, we have it there. I guess, anyone else have any thoughts on it?
Whether or not it is a resolution, would it make sense to either translate the gist into the employee handbook or to summarize that in a motion? Since even if it was passed as a resolution, it would still need to be reflected. The handbook doesn't have a bunch of resolutions in it.
Sure.
This is for something that we've expanded now to the discussion of all employees.
Right. Melissa Thomas, HR Director. Actually, what would happen is I would work with Wellmark and create new eligibility requirements for our summary plan document.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be in the handbook, but it would be in our SPD. So
What impact do they say that might have? Any?
just that we'd have to work together, and probably, some attorney would help, would help Mr. Woodman hopefully to make sure that the verbiage was correct to go into our summary plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we probably would have to come up with better definitions of catastrophic, would we not?
They did mention that, just so everybody would be on the same page if something would happen.
although we do leave the ambiguity, I'm not going to say that word today, but it's up to the board at the time to decide whether or not that is a work-related issue.
Correct, and if catastrophic was spelled out a little bit better or more precise, then there wouldn't be so much, questioning if this was an incident that we would cover.
And I think the goal of adding catastrophic and physical was not to have the kind of injury where I've got carpal tunnel or rotator cuff through years, where it becomes a gray area, but it's, the sort of thing that we were kind of mentioning last time. Somebody's shot in the line of duty, somebody's hit on their motor grader, and so I think as long as it's coming back before this board, if there's a lot of doubt and the physician's not signing off and there's all of this gray area, then
Well, even if it's
be
something that
disallowed.
happens 20 years from now and none of us, some of us might still be alive, but we're maybe not paying attention or not around to, define what we intended when we passed it, It would be good to have better definitions of what we mean by, I guess, filling a disability gap for somebody disabled in the line of duty.
So would the final language come from?
Mark and myself would work for that language, and then they did suggest we run it past our attorney to make sure everything is, complicit with our SBD, so.
So I guess, would we be looking more towards a resolution directing the policy be put in our SBD essentially, and then we would approve that when it comes back?
I would bring that forward to be approved to add to our plan document,
Okay.
the verbiage.
Or does that just happen by fiat from this resolution?
I was going to ask Joshua, when, I had this discussion earlier, when is a resolution necessary? When is, just a motion? I don't really care about it being a resolution in terms of like, there's a certificate or there's all the whereases, but I do want to make sure that we have a lot of our intent so it's not open to interpretation later on. So there's 10 or 12 different points in there, but
it probably could be done as a resolution. I know the prior action in regards to the spouses was a resolution. And I think the format and the permanency of a resolution is more appropriate than a simple motion for something like that, whereas, a motion of the board can be undone, the next week or whatever. I guess a resolution can be undone as well, but I think probably a resolution is appropriate to set it forth, and then if there's going to be a change to the insurance
SBD
documents, they would come, that can happen, and then it would come back for formal approval, but basically the resolution sets out what the board is seeking to accomplish.
Okay.
well, with that, I would move the resolution as written, that describes the policy that the Board of Supervisors may extend health insurance coverage with the points and procedures as described herein.
I'll second. Motion by Taylor, second by Radig. Any other discussion? Any other questions? It's kind of what you intended essentially to, correct? Initially?
Yes,
Okay.
and I will be abstaining.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and we have an abstention, so it passes 4-0-1 with DeWitt abstaining. All right, moving on to reports on committee meetings. I knew there was something I was going to look up beforehand.
I just had a conservation board meeting and had a really good discussion. We did talk about ARPA funding and the desire to bring Little Sioux and Southwood and a rough scope of magnitude engineering fees I'm looking at somewhere between 600 and 750,000 to do everything. The projected revenue looks to about 100 to 150,000. So that's something that I'm going to work with Dan to bring a proposal to put in front of you. Also, they have a dedicated source of revenue, and I apologize, I can't remember what it is, but it's for security, and they are going to expend the $8,300 that they have in there for cameras. They've had a couple incidents, people breaking into cars. They're short about $5,100, and so they were going to do a 5-year CIP, and I'm not looking for discussion on this tonight, but I suggested that maybe the board would entertain doing that through gaming. With the amount of money that we have, doesn't seem to make sense to take a $5,000 expense over 5 years, just my opinion. So that may be something that you see in the future, and that's all I have.
So you're saying like a no interest loan?
Or a no interest grant.
I don't know, they get revenue, and if we're gonna give them a new revenue source, that's maybe not a bad idea, just, I mean, it's $5,000, but it's
Yeah.
$5,000.
More to follow.
All right, anything? Matthew?
Nope.
Certs, Simcoe, we had our groundbreaking. They were very appreciative of the county, Woodbury County, working with them on that building, because without our help, it might not be, be able to bridge that gap and get it built.
Was that what that now shredded tent was for?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, yeah. It was a windy day. It was hard to hear the speakers because all the tent and everything was just whipping in the wind out there, and it was a pretty muddy site. I did decide to go out and take a look at the jail in the morning since I figured I was going to be walking in mud anyway. They had a few pools here and there in some of the sites there, but it's really incredible to see the honeycomb network of footings underneath the detention pods, because they're obviously having all those walls line up with the footings. They're going to backfill those with dirt and then put the slab over top, and it's just neat to see it coming along. It's amazing the size and the scope of that project.
Then I digress. We did have an LEC authority meeting this afternoon, and we saw ongoing photos of the new cells, interior, exterior, the methods with which they're constructed, the plumbing, HVAC, and all that stuff is set up on a rack. The rack is just basically slid or slash hoisted into place. 650 parts on this rack. It's attached very, very fast. Electric, all of that is right there, plumbed up to done.
Wow.
And then it'll be set in place, stacked, of course, but there were a few fascinating photos on that, so
Cool.
perhaps I take it for granted that I'm going to those meetings anyway. And
Well, it's easy to forget what you do during the week when it becomes kind of routine. So just wanted to reiterate, it was Mayor Winkle from Sergeant Bluff, who is the chair of Simcoe. He was the one that made the thankful comments to the county for working with them, and that project came in at $12 million when it was originally budgeted at $7 million, and they had to value engineer $2 million out. They came up with $1 million out of reserves, and we're helping to finance and have them repay us to fill that gap. So, citizen concern round 2. Caitlin, you're the closest to a citizen. Nothing? Board concern round 2, or on round 1, end of the meeting? Nothing? Anything? I do have something, and Pat's here from the sheriff's office. He said he wanted to hide, so I wanted to point him out. And Sheriff Sheehan and Matthew and I had a small meeting to discuss our emergency management building isn't quite secured and monitored the same way as our other buildings. And essentially, Matthew and I are gonna meet with them on site and discuss how the sheriff's department should have a little bit more oversight of emergency management moving forward. So I just wanted to inform you guys of that. Any questions? All right, we are adjourned.